All right. Proud to be an American. And in today's Proud to be an American, first story we leading off with, we're right back here in Detroit, man. I almost started to name this episode like Motor City Madness, man, because there's been a lot of bullshit going on around my town, man, real talk. But this story here comes out of the metrotimes.com, man. This came out July 2nd. And on Friday, well, the story reads on Friday, dumped out with the latest desirable news of the week, with the least desirable news of the week, came word that a lawsuit arguing that Detroit students were being denied an education had been dismissed. Perhaps you remember the case. Metro Times presented a cover story about it last year. With the help of public interest law firm, a handful of Detroit students charged a federal court that educational officials in Michigan, including Governor Rick Snyder, denied them access to an education of any quality. The lawsuit took pains to illustrate how Detroit schools run under a state-appointed emergency manager where a welter of dysfunction, overcrowded classrooms, lack of textbooks and basic materials, unqualified staff, leaking roofs, broken windows, black mold, contaminated drinking water, rodents, no pens, no paper, no toilet paper, and unsafe temperatures that had classes canceled due to 90-degree heat or classrooms so cold that students could see their breath. At times with teachers or instructional materials, At times without teachers or instructional materials, students were simply herded into rooms and asked to watch videos. One student claimed to have learned all the words of the film Frozen in high school. The lawsuit even mentions one 8th grade student who taught a 7th and 8th grade math class for a month because no teacher could be found. We had described such teaching methods as a sort of throw a book at them and hope they learn something method of education, only without the book to throw. Students cannot be expected to learn when they are simply warehoused for 7 hours a day in an unsafe, degrading, and chaotic environment. That is a school in name only. It is hardly surprising that at the plaintiff schools, which serve almost exclusively low-income children of color, almost 99% of the students are unable to achieve proficiency in state-mandated subjects. Last year, the state moved for dismissal, arguing that the 14th Amendment contains no reference to literacy. Then last week, U.S. District Judge Stephen Murphy III agreed with the state. Literacy is important, the judge noted, but students enjoy no right to access to being taught literacy. All the state has to do is make sure schools run. If they are unable to educate their students, that's a shame, but court rulings have not established that access to literacy is a fundamental right. Now, access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are indeed rights that we are we're supposed to enjoy as Americans in this country, man. Make no mistake. Make no mistake about this, man. As I talked about, the scam that was run on Detroit residents where they thought that they would be getting free houses, and folks were mocking them for saying, they need to have the same sort of enthusiasm when it comes to voting. And I talked already about we need to be more mindful of the education that the voters have so that they know what it is that they're voting for, as opposed to just saying that you need to just go out and vote. Right now, one thing that I know, right, and this is something that I've one thing that I've been as I've been more politically aware and politically active, one thing that I have known for a long time, and like many others have said this, and I echo these sentiments wholeheartedly, is that those who are in power benefit from an uneducated populace, right? Donald Trump said this himself while he was on the campaign trail, that he loves the undereducated. He loves them, right? Because if you can appeal to someone who is not sophisticated enough in the language, or someone who isn't, versed in the terminology of politics and what it means, or you can make them apathetic to the political process because they don't understand it, and if they don't understand it, they are less likely to engage in it. If you can do that, then you can basically move the people as you want, as opposed to the people moving you as you're supposed to be moved because you work for them, not the other way around. So it doesn't surprise me, unfortunately. It doesn't surprise me that this was the judgment that was handed down. It's like, I wish I was, man. I wish I was more surprised that this was something that would surprise me to the point where, like, man, I can't believe that they're doing this. But considering all of the things that are going on in the nation right now, this does not surprise me. The people who are currently in power right now thrive on you not knowing what it is that you're supposed to know. And if they can get this, if they can establish a precedent where, like, well, as an American citizen, you are not entitled to an education. You are not entitled to literacy. As an American citizen, as an American student, you are not entitled to this. This is something that the poors will have to figure out how they're going to get it. Meanwhile, those of means have access to this because they have an ability to pay for it, right? Again, this is that class warfare thing that is coming right up again. Like, even to the point where, like, the poor have less access to education, less access to information, less access to the abilities to inform themselves on what it is that they're going to need to go forward in life, right? This doesn't surprise me whatsoever. For those who are in power right now, they thrive on the fact that the populace does not know what the fuck is going on. They thrive on that. They thrive on people who don't know who to vote for. They thrive on people who don't know what these policies mean and what it could mean for them going forward. They thrive on people just like, yo, man, I'm not gonna pay attention to none of this shit. I'm just checking out, man. I don't know nothing about none of this. They thrive on that because if you don't know, then damn it, they could throw whatever the fuck it is they want to up under the rug and get away with it. Right? Unfortunately, we got a generation of kids who are coming up, and we talk about, like, yo, like, learning the history of this country, man. Like, yo, these kids don't, like, some of these kids won't really have a functional knowledge of what it means for the history of, you know, what's going on in this country. They can rewrite this and nobody would be the wiser if they don't have access to literacy. You know, we talked about the functions of government. Like, if they don't have a civics class, if these kids aren't versed in how government actually works, then how in the hell can they critique what the president does? How can they critique what a Supreme Court justice ruling was? How can they critique the laws that are being manufactured in the House and the Senate? How can they do that if they haven't been given the tools from an early age to understand what these things mean? So this doesn't surprise me. This is a concerted effort. It has been a concerted effort for a long fucking time, man. It's why I talk so passionately about this shit. Because these things have been, it's been baked in the cake, man. They're actively trying to take rights away from you. And the more apathetic you are to this, the more it works in their favor. You got people out here right now talking about not voting. And part of the reason why they don't want to vote is because they're not even educated on the topics to, like, figure out, okay, what does this mean and how does it affect me on the day to day? They want you to feel like that. They want you to feel like you don't know and you don't understand, and therefore you can just check out. Right? And denying these kids an education, denying these kids literacy, kills their ability to dissent when the government is doing some fuck shit because they don't understand what the hell is going on. And they've checked out because they don't understand. They don't get it. It's just unfortunate. Like, it's unfortunate, man. Like, we have to do this, like, where we have to fight for these things that used to be what you would call, like, I don't know, like, these were things that we just used to do. Now you have to fight for this shit. Right? You have to fight for everything you have. Again, the things that you thought you won, the things that you thought were set in stone are not. You got to fight for it, and you got to fight to keep it. And they're fighting to take it away from you every fucking chance they get. So, yeah, man, that's proud to be an American where we don't have to educate our fucking kids. Right?